You're listening to the Wrigleyville Nation podcast. Season ticket holders and lifelong fans with neighborhood ties discuss Cubs news and neighborhood happenings. Here's your hosts, Jeremy and Pat.
Hello and welcome to the Wrigleyville Nation podcast. This is episode 406 of the podcast. My name is Jeremy Deemer. I will be your host, and I'm joined as always by my co-host. He's my cousin, and he's high atop Wrigleyville tonight. How's it going, Pat?
It's going well. Well, no, it's not. It's terrible.
No, it's not going well.
It's a stupid week. It's a stupid week. I don't even know why we're here.
No.
You just shake off that default, Pat.
Thanks.
Yes, it was a stupid week. We debated whether we wanted to even have a podcast before we started. We wanted to talk about anything other than the game we had to sit through today. This is, it just caps off a terrible week. What a difference a week makes. Nobody predicted the week that the Cubs would have.
I predicted a 3-3 week. I wasn't, I knew this weekend series we'd lose 2 out of 3 because that's karma. But well, we can get into the Braves later. I'm sorry. To get that.
No, we're gonna get right into the Braves. We're gonna talk about the week that was. We'll talk about the White Sox series. We will preview the upcoming huge series against Milwaukee, and to help us unpack all the Cubs news and happenings, you know him from his many appearances here on this podcast, as well as his work at Northside Baseball. Matt Trueblood, thanks for taking time out to talk Cubs with us tonight.
Anytime, guys. Even this time. We'll get through it together.
I'm always waiting to hear this is thanks for this week. and yeah, this week was tough. Cubs lose 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. The Braves, best record in the National League. We knew this was going to be a tough series for the Cubs. The Cubs were starting to cool off from their hot streak.
Shutout back-to-back days coming into it. You'd think they would have done a little bit better offensively.
No, in fact, they did not. They lost the opening game. They were Yastrzemski'd in the opening game and lost in Atlanta 5-2. Disappointing. They were up 2-1 at one point in the fourth before the wheels fell off in the 5th inning for the Cubs.
I mean, Mike Yastrzemski still plays Major League Baseball. I did not know this until that game. Wasn't he like a giant like 5 years ago, but things kind of.
This was his first home run as an Atlanta Brave. It was in this game. So.
Yeah. There is nothing more dangerous to the Cubs than a left-handed, like tweener outfielder who's got a little pop but has been historically cold, or is on the verge of losing their job. Yeah. That's always the guy who just murderizes the Cubs.
Yes, Bregman did hit a home run. So some offense that was huge. The Cubs had gone over 20 plus innings without scoring a run, so it was crucial to at least get something on the board, at least break that streak. But they lost.
Was it crucial? I don't know.
It was crucial. They needed to get something going. We needed to see some offense.
We could have pulled a reverse Oral Hershiser. Who cares, right? I mean, if you're going to lose, you're going to lose.
If you're going to lose, you're going to. The losing continued.
Yeah.
As the Cubs played again these same Atlanta Braves, losing 4-1. Imanaga looked good. Another good start for Imanaga. That's the positive of this. But again, no run support. Matt, your thoughts on Imanaga being the brightest spot of this pitching rotation still?
Well, I mean, if you went back to the start of the season and said, I'm going to take Cade Horton and Matthew Boyd off the table, who do you think's the best starter in this rotation? I guess the optimists among us would have said Edward Cabrera, but Imanaga had that upside all along. As worrisome as the second half of last year was, I mean, throughout spring training, we saw it. More velocity, arm angle up, splitter getting off of the same plane as the fastball better. It's all just carried over, which is encouraging. Obviously, they need more than just him to be working in the rotation on a regular basis, but this is what it's supposed to look like when he's going well. I guess it validates their bizarre set of choices to decline the option
let's not sugarcoat this. Cubs media spent all winter lamenting the fact that the Cubs agreed to this 1-year deal with Imanaga and were just beside themselves that they lost the opportunity to go get somebody else instead.
Right. And I mean, you can still look right now. It looks smart to still have him. The question is really opportunity cost, because if they hadn't done that, would they have bid more heavily on Dylan Cease? Would they have, who knows? But I think it was always a decent gamble that he was going to bounce back, maybe not bounce back all the way to what we saw in 2024, which is basically what we've got right now. But he had an offseason to get healthy. And I don't know that he was fully healthy at all after he came back from the hamstring thing last year. This is him fully healthy. There's no guarantee he's going to stay that way, which is why every other pitching injury that happens makes me a little more nervous, because that hamstring could always flare up again. He's getting toward his mid-30s now. Lots of things can happen. But while he is healthy, this is the kind of pitcher that we've seen him be. So
he's not 33 yet, let alone mid-30s. Come on, let's not overage him. But he, as I recall, I don't know. I thought that he started off well last year too, right?
He did well right up. So it was until a couple of weeks ago last year, early May, was when he pulled that hamstring in Milwaukee, and he really was not the same when he came back 7 weeks later. But yeah, he was off to a good start. I don't know that it was quite as good because the swing and miss wasn't there. The ERA was pretty. The strikeout rate was not where you want it to be. It did not look the same as it had in 2024, even when he was succeeding early last year.
He had a 280 ERA in 8 starts, right? 8 starts, 280 ERA. I mean, we were not sitting around worried about Imanaga at after that first start of May last year, but then when he got hurt, you're right, he came back, and actually he pitched well in his first start back in June, and then he had that bad August or July. I guess July and September. It's pretty good in August. But yeah, I mean, it's a long season, so we'll see. But hey, anything he can give us now is much needed, because the Cubs obviously are struggling in that area. My take on this, and I don't know what your thoughts are, Matt, but I thought the Cubs were actually going to win 2 out of 3 against the Braves, and the reason I thought that was because from a pitching matchup standpoint, the Cubs kind of got a good setup here. Like, they had Sale the last day, but they missed Elder. Spencer Strider wasn't coming back until right after we left that Friday. Schwallenberger, whatever his name is still on the IL. And I thought, if you can't beat the 4 and 5 starters on a team, or one of them, that's a bad sign. And they couldn't, as it turns out, but they did beat Sale, which whatever, that's baseball. But this is a team that the Cubs might end up seeing again in the postseason, very possibly, right? And I didn't find this series to be particularly encouraging. 5 runs in 3 games after scoring none of the 2
5
games.
runs in 5 games if you include the Texas series.
Right. It wasn't for lack of Cubs pitching. It was just they couldn't hit. And I think to myself, if the Braves were at full strength, which they were not, I don't know how much more full strength the Cubs are going to get, but there was no, they were missing Acuna, right? I don't know. Is this a team the Cubs can beat in the playoffs, or is Jeff Passan correct that the only team that can beat the Dodgers is the Braves?
I haven't heard much from Jeff Passan lately.
Yeah.
I would say that they can beat this team if they run into them in October. That's partially just because short series, almost anything can happen,
Sure.
and partially because I'm not that impressed with that team. Not that they're not great, but Matt Olson is hitting absolutely out of his mind right now.
MVP season, because I don't have him on my fantasy team this year. It's only the years I have him that he's terrible.
I don't think it's because Matt Olson is God. I think it's because Matt Olson's hot right now. And one issue that I think is going to take longer for us to see for sure, but I kind of think both of these teams' identity is a little bit of streakiness for the time being, at the very least, and probably long term. It's just how the Cubs are built, where when you build yourself around a really great defense, there are going to be times when those great defenders that you're unwilling to take out of the lineup with good reason don't hit for a while.
Dansby Swanson. Yeah.
Long streak of that right now.
Yeah.
PCA has actually nosed up nicely over the last 2 weeks, but it's still not what it was last year in the first half. And that guy is probably not who he's going to be consistently.
The speed element makes him better than Swanson, all things else being equal, I think.
Right. Well, and you can put PCA and Swanson at the bottom of the order and maybe nothing hurt if everybody else is hitting. But notice they haven't moved Nico Horner out of the leadoff spot at all because they really can't. They don't have anybody else who's so hot that they can just justify sliding him down to 7th. But Nico's not hitting either. It's been
who could bat leadoff is Kyle Schwarber, who just hit his 20th home run on Friday.
Well,
maybe the Phillies will DFA him and the Cubs could pick him up.
They probably would have kept Kyle Schwarber anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the identity, and it's exaggerated because your rotation is uneven right now and your bullpen is a little bit stretched, and it's not full strength. That's the one place where they are definitely going to get healthier in the short-term future here. But even at full strength, is this a dominant bullpen? It is not. So, there are going to be streaks and slumps for this team. They've been very streaky and slumpy so far. And I think
more streaky than slumpy, at least. I mean, I give them that.
Right. And so I still think it's a good team. And yes, I think the Cubs can win against pretty much anyone in October. I don't think the Dodgers are overwhelmingly impressive this year. I'm certainly not buying into the hype on Atlanta the way a lot of the national media seems to be, which the national media, like, I don't mean to just decry mainstream media in total, but the major newsbreakers of the baseball sphere, Ken Rosenthal, Jeff Passan, Bob Nightingale, John Heyman, they see a shiny record. If you've won more than twice as many as you've lost when you get to mid-May, they have the memories of goldfish. They forget that does not mean you are going to win 110 games. There are people who are way too impressed with some of the best teams in the league right now, but I want to remind everyone that 2 weeks ago, that included the Cubs. People were way too impressed with this team. It's a good team. It's not a great team. There are a lot of flaws. And we just saw some of those flaws play out over the last week.
Honestly, almost every time the Cubs come out on the field, I'm like, how are we possibly going to get through this game from a pitching standpoint? That's where I'm at right now, just due to the injuries and due to the poor performance of certain players. But we'll get into that too.
Yeah,
there was a real... it's not a straw breaking the camel's back. It is a cinder block breaking the camel's back. But when Boyd went down...
Oh, yeah, your guy, Matt Boyd. Remember we had this argument last winter about how great Boyd was? You were telling me, and I'm like, or is he more like the August, September guy or the guy who always gets hurt in Detroit? You're like, no, he pitched 11 great innings 2 years ago, so he's going to be great forever. Remember that?
He was very good last year, and he really...
For a while.
There were a couple of wobbly starts in this year, but there were
I think I was at each and every one of them, too. It was like the curse of Trueblood.
There were a lot of good signs in what he was doing this year.
He was striking out everybody who he didn't give up a searing line drive base hit to.
We talked the last time I was on about the Nationals had a really good plan for him on opening day, and sometimes that's going to work. Depends on how well you execute. But he was really important to this rotation, not just because of his presence and because he gave you a good chance to win every time he took the mound, but because as soon as he went down, after you'd already lost Horton and Steele was set back and on, well, now Ben Brown has to come out of the bullpen. And we can talk about the good thing that has been Ben Brown in the rotation and the reasons to believe in that a bit. But already you can feel how much the bullpen misses Ben Brown. So it's a domino effect.
Ben Brown was the story of Sunday's victory against, the closing series victory against the Braves. He was able to hang with Chris Sale. Both guys pitching incredibly well. You had, while Chris Sale ended up giving up no earned runs, Ben Brown matched him also with no earned runs over 4 innings.
When
only
your
one
team only
hit, 7
averages
strikeouts.
When your team only averages 1 run a game scored as a pitcher, you should probably just shut out the opponent. I think that was his strategy, and it was very successful.
He did a great job, but unfortunately, Ian Happ was not going to allow them to shut out the Cubs, as Ian Happ gave a home run to win the game. Palencia, a whole bunch of bullpen guys came in from Milner, Webb, all the way to Palencia getting the save, and the Cubs were able to salvage one in Atlanta.
I'll give it to Hobie Milner, man. He's come in several times over the last 4 weeks and pitched 2 innings or an inning and 2/3 when you really needed him to in a game the Cubs were leading and wanted to win. Unlike Matt's friend Phil Matan.
We'll get to
want to
him.
say, we're talking about friend likes the skill profile, and
that's right.
We do have to talk about what's going on with Phil Matan.
Talk about somebody who's close to middle-aged.
While I would not count him as a friend, I actually have met and really do like Hobie Milner. He is a great guy. That was going to be a great signing all along, unless you need him as your relief ace, in which case you get to be in trouble. And for a minute there, that is almost what he was. When Palencia was also down and Matan was down or completely unreliable, which is still basically true. There was a moment when Hobie Milner was the best reliever in your bullpen. That's bad. But if he's anywhere else on your hierarchy, it's so good. He is a rubber arm. He has lots of ways of getting guys out. He's a positive presence in the clubhouse. He's smart enough to adjust when something's not working. I mean, we've seen already the best case scenario of what Hobie Milner is, but I also think it's unlike a lot of these guys. There's not much volatility there. You're going to keep getting this from Hobie Milner. The results will not always be perfect because he doesn't throw very hard, and it's people can still run into stuff against him. But
regardless of whether he throws hard or not, which I know I've given up on the concept of a Cub pitcher throwing hard after the last decade, but I will say he has a lot of clean innings too, which I like. When he comes into a game and you're up by 2 or 3 runs, and he can go an inning and a third without giving up any hits or walks and get you into the 8th, or from the 6th into the 8th. I'm like, oh my God.
You do not find a lot of guys with that deception coming from that low angle who can also fill up the strike zone for perfectly good, physical, mechanical reasons. Most guys like that struggle to throw a ton of strikes and limit walk rate, but Milner's one of the ones who can.
So all told, you lose 2 out of 3 at Atlanta. They're doing well. You're going with your Band-Aid, pitching staff. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I guess it's
no. I myself and our guest last week, James, also predicted that they would lose 2 out of 3 in Atlanta.
The nice thing is when you sweep a team 4 straight, and you do that to a couple different teams, it buys you the opportunity to lose 2 out of 3 several times. It's just
on the road,
the way the math works.
It's fine. Yeah, that it didn't make us mad until this weekend. The offense we were talking about, all the struggles. The offense was able to put up 22 runs in 3 games against these White Sox pitchers and defense, whereas prior, 5 runs in the last 5 games. So this is a huge improvement offensively. A dose of the White Sox pitching will do that for you. But the Cubs still lost 2 out of 3, including an incredibly infuriating game that happened on Sunday. Let's start with the Friday game, the bright spot. The Cubs were able to win that game. Carson Kelly doing a great job, and the Cubs offense explodes for 10 runs, winning the Friday game.
Is Cabrera ever going to go 5 innings in a win? In a game the Cubs win? It feels like they always pull him after 4 2/3. Am I misreading? What's going on here?
I mean, Craig Counsell extremely does not care about the win statistic.
Yeah.
He almost, going back to when he was managing the Brewers, you would sometimes almost feel like he was pulling a guy after 4 2/3 to make the point that he didn't care about getting him through.
He's had
That's
like
not really why. The real reason is a guy would get to the top of the order the third time. He'd not be looking good. Counsels vary by the numbers, and he would say, I have a better chance of getting out of this jam that this guy's put me in by going to a reliever who matches up well with this batter than by asking my starter to retire this batter a third time. But yeah, he's extremely aggressive in the 5th inning specifically with starters exactly like Cabrera, who he's had several of over the years.
and Cabrera's had 4 bad starts in a row. Should we be worried at all?
I guess it depends. I hope that when the Cubs traded for Cabrera, and I was very high on the acquisition, and really I still am, I hope people didn't get the idea that he was going to be like a Cy Young winner. That's not his identity. A, there were the durability questions, but B, he's always struggled with command, and that will catch up to you anytime.
Boy, does he. Yeah.
But right now, there's this extra problem, which is the strike zone's a postage stamp. ABS has changed the zone, and not just on calls that are actually challenged by batters or catchers. The strike zone, the feedback the umpires have gotten on how to call the zone in accordance with ABS rules has basically taken one baseball's worth off the top of the zone. And the third base side of the plate, outside to lefties, inside to righties, has been tightened up like crazy. That's 2 flavors of very bad for Edward Cabrera, especially because that changeup is always trying to slice off that corner and even get a little bit off that corner inside on righties away from lefties. And so he's more vulnerable, not even just to walks, but to falling behind in counts and then having to come into the zone with a fastball that we all know doesn't have ideal shape. And even though it's very hard, it can also get hit hard. So,
and that's
he's
the
running into
frustrating
that.
part, right? In 5 innings, he can give up 3 hits, which is no big deal, but he also walks 3 or 4 guys, and he's at 90 pitches in the blink of an eye.
Right. It would be great to have a framing ace, somebody, one of those guys like David Ross from back in the day, who will shape the zone and get you a bunch of extra calls along specifically that edge, and a batter can appeal it and maybe get a couple of those reversed now, but they may not always pull that trigger even when they could, because they may not be sure either way,
So you mean like a Moises Ballesteros or somebody like that?
Yeah. And that's the look. Moises Ballesteros is clearly the 3rd best catcher on this team, but even Kelly is not a great framer. Have
you seen PCA catch? I mean, you say he's 3rd. Is it just among people who have actually caught this year? I feel like Swanson could probably catch better than Ballesteros, don't you think?
And look, Miguel Amaya is not the same guy. It's unfortunate. I don't think it's any fault of his work ethic. From everything we've ever heard, the attitude's wonderful. The work is hard, but his bat speed is way down and it shows. And
is that because of the injury last year, you think, or is it just...
I can only assume it's the accumulation of injuries. I would
7
guess
in a row. Yeah.
Right.
But it's one way or another, it's not the same swing. It's not the same movements behind the plate. I think they keep trying Ballesteros, just here and there, trying to figure out if he's viable, not just to maximize Moises Ballesteros' value, but because they can't trust Miguel Amaya very much.
Well, and they're going to run Carson Kelly into the ground at this rate. I thought he was most effective last year catching 89, 90 games rather than, 110 or 115 or 120.
Yeah, he was really, really, really effective until almost exactly this point in the year. May 24th last year is when Amaya got hurt in Cincinnati. And they started playing Kelly more because they didn't trust Reese McGuire as much. Carson Kelly's offense went straight down from there. Not that he wasn't there, he had spurts of usefulness the rest of the way, but overall, his numbers went from real good to pretty darn bad at that very moment. And this year, that's basically been the whole year, because they came out of the gate hoping they could do sort of a 50-50 timeshare and quickly realized that's not going to work. It's a little bit of a echo or a microcosm of what's happening with the pitching staff, where it's not just that something's not working, but the extra strain that something not working is creating on a thing that is working. Long term, we have to worry about what they're going to get out of Kelly, both offensively and defensively, if he keeps having to play this much.
The other thing Kelly gives you is he's by far the best on this team when it comes to ABS challenges. He's one of the best in the league when it comes to his percentage of successful challenges. After the Cubs win on Friday, the wheels fell off, and we saw a rough Saturday. Murakami, multiple home runs.
Munetaka Murakami versus Jameson Tyone.
It was
had
bad.
to be like the best
bad
odds in
Jameson
DraftKings
Tyone
history to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just and we saw it early. We're like, oh, this is going to be a bad JMO game here. This is bad Tyone, and it sure was. It just kept getting worse. And yeah, that's.
Did you catch that after the game? They asked Counsell about it, and he said, "Well, he got up in the zone too much." And when they asked Tyone about it, he's like, "Oh no, I disagree. Actually, it's not that. It's just my quality of pitches and pitch selection weren't good enough." And I'm like, dude, you were up in the zone too much because the quality of your pitches don't allow for that. So I don't know how to. Yeah, I didn't have Nolan Ryan's 1973 fastball, so it made it a little bit difficult to get it blowing past people up there. Come on,
like the high fastball is a good pitch, just not my high fastball.
Exactly. I was using my pitch selection of my high fastball, not Nolan Ryan from 73. Sorry. Yeah,
it was a big strategic error.
Yeah. I'll correct it next week. Yeah, well, this is his last year at the Cubs, right? And he has games like this. But
yes, he does.
I have to stand by him for this, even though doesn't feel great, because I have long said that give me a pitcher who goes out there and starts 30 games and has 4 absolute stinkers where he gets rocked to kingdom come, but then the rest of the time he keeps you in the game 26 times. Like that to me is the ideal pitch. I'd rather have that than the Edward Cabrera kind of, 3 runs and 4 runs every single game, 5 runs, 3 to 5 runs every game, because you're going to lose more of those. I'd much rather. John Lester was good at this too, right? He would go 6 innings, 1 run, 5.1, 1 run, 6, 1 run. Then he'd go 3.28 runs, every once in a blue moon. But you know what? It works, and it works better, I think. So whatever. I hope this is not going to be. We've seen Imanaga do this too, where they just, both of them are susceptible, obviously, to giving up home runs under the wrong wind conditions. Remember Kyle Hendricks against the Braves on Sunday Night Baseball? Yeah. Oh God, I still have nightmares about that. But before this, Tyone had pitched pretty well the last several games. Like his last 3 starts were really good. So I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm just going to say, yeah, you're right, Jameson. It was your pitch selection and quality of pitches, and leave it at that, and have him come back out against Houston next week and see if he can do better.
You need him to bounce back. You need him to.
For 2 reasons. One, because I think we'll be at the game, Jeremy, and secondly, because that's just the way he does it. I think. Am I being too laissez-faire about this, Matt, or am I just mellowing in my old age?
No, I think you're generally right. First of all, he's one of those guys who takes pride in, it's a bad night, I'm going to wear this for you, and you're not going to have to go to the bullpen after 3.
Right, and that's kind of where they were too.
Yeah. And he will do that, and I think that's great. And sometimes it makes his numbers uglier, but the numbers aren't what you're pitching to. I do think he gives you a little bit better a chance to win the next day by getting 4 or 5 extra outs on a lot of nights when a lot of other pitchers don't mentally have that for you.
He gave us a great chance to win the next day. That was also frustrating.
But the one thing I think we need to monitor is over the last, it's almost 3 weeks now, Baseball Savant tracks the drag on the baseball. They can calculate it just based on, it's so geeky, but based on how much people's 4-seam fastballs slow down between when they're released and when they get to home plate, they can calculate how much the baseball is dragging. So basically, whether it's seams or the roughness of the surface, whatever. The drag on the ball is way down over the last 3 weeks from where it was last year to back into the 2023-24 range when home runs were much more prevalent because the ball was flying farther. If we have a livelier baseball again, just out of nowhere here, that's
summer,
bad news for Jameson Taillon. So keep your eye on that, but also respect the fact that he will wear one for you. Understand that there are going to be clunkers with his stuff and how it works. And there are also going to be a lot of days when, like you said, he just plain gives you a chance to win. And his teammates love him for both things.
2 runs in 7 innings. I mean, that's great. 2 runs in 6 innings. I mean, that'll work
for sure.
He's one of the few pitchers that can get out of the 5th, apparently, too, which is nice.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we're starting mostly relief pitchers, so I get why a lot of them aren't doing it. But still, it is nice to have somebody who can do it. And with Boyd out, he's it right now. He and him and
Colin Ray couldn't do it on Sunday.
Yeah.
Colin Ray.
Why am I souring on Colin Ray? Is this the beginning of the end of the Colin Ray magic for the Cubs? Like, is that Brewers magic starting to wear off finally? Is there a shelf life to how long you keep that after you leave the team?
You'd have said that same thing about him in like late July, early August last year, and then he turned it on and was phenomenal down the stretch for them. One of their most trustworthy pitchers, arguably Council should have trusted him more and some other guys less once they got to October last year. Yeah. Colin Ray makes adjustments incredibly well. And this is 2 straight bad starts, or is it 3? It's either 3 bad starts out of 4.
It's actually only 1 really bad start. He went 5 1/3 and gave up 2 runs to Cincy, but only 1 was earned.
Right.
And before that, he went 5 1/3 and gave up 2 runs to Arizona, and we won that game. Before that was the Dodgers game when he got blasted.
But he also wasn't good in Texas, right? Unless I'm misremembering.
I don't think he pitched.
Or was it the first game in Atlanta that he was?
It was Atlanta. The first game he was terrible. Yeah, that's right. He gave up 5 runs at 4 1/3. So yeah, you're right.
So 2 straight bad starts will make you feel
yeah.
worse about a guy than you really should. Then that's just our nature. It's almost hard to remember the last time he was really good. He's still
bias, I think, is what we call it.
Exactly. He throws pretty hard for a Cubs pitcher, by the way. But he also has a bunch of pitches, and at any given time, it's just about finding the couple that are going to be a really good complement to the 4-seamer. He hasn't had him the last couple times out. I would not give up on Colin Ray, either just emotionally or like certainly not in terms of giving his rotation spot to anyone else. I think that optioning Javier Assad today was a little bit about stretching him out in case they do need him for another spot in the rotation.
Oh, 100%.
But I don't think that should or will be Colin Ray anytime soon. Unless, of course, he gets hurt. That's a whole different thing.
The rate everybody's getting hurt,
Stabilize and be one of those guys like Taillon who keeps you in games most of the time. Just been a couple of rough in a row.
Despite his performance today, I blame the Cubs offense even more than your buddy Phil Matan. I blame the Cubs offense for this loss. Even though the Cubs scored 8 runs, I still blame them. Jeremy, remember when I texted you earlier today?
You did. I will
Cubs are up 4-1, by the way, at this time, going into the bottom of the 4th.
Cubs have batted 21 times and reached base 11 times and only have 4 runs, 2 of which scored on a 2-run home run. Need better clutch hitting than that. This is why you don't squander early opportunities, was the follow-up text.
So the White Sox made a fatal error in this game. Like Eric Fetty or whatever that guy is, the starter they had. Through the first 3 innings, I mean, the bases were just jammed all the time, and he got out of a bunch of it. The Cubs only scored 3 runs off him, and he was at like 86 pitches or something like that. I was like, okay, well, they're going to take him out, but no, they brought him back in the 4th of a 3-1 game, and they let him put the first 2 base runners on before they finally took him out at 92 pitches. And I thought to myself, boy, that was a terrible tactical decision. That was an error. The Cubs can exploit this, and the Cubs could break this one open. 1st and 2nd, nobody out. Cubs did score a run. But like most of the runs today, they were kind of the really like, a fielder's choice with the bases loaded, scores a run, that kind of thing. They had a chance there to really break it open in the fourth because even though they scored a run, there were more guys that came on base, and it was just and I thought, boy, when the other side gives you a free inning like that, you just got to take advantage. And I really do think the Cubs had jumped on them there and put up a 3 spot and been up 6-1. This is a different ball game, different calculations, and the Cubs actually, kind of take this one fairly easily. But
they left 13 men on base.
Yeah, and like even that, so great. Jeremy's like, when Conforto hits a home run in the 9th after your buddy Matan had given up 3 in the bottom of the 8th, and the Cubs were down. He hits a home run, ties the game. Like, great. PCA's up, by the way, with 2 outs, and I was thinking, maybe they should intentionally walk him, because if he makes the last out here, he leads off at second base if we get into the 10th. I thought strategically, Swanson was up. You could intentionally walk Pete. There's no way Swanson's going to get Pete from first to home with 2 outs in a game. Pete can't steal all 3 bases, right? So I'm like, that's what I would do. And then I would put Swanson on second to start the 10th, but they did not. They batted to Pete. He had a soft liner. Okay, great. Starts off at second base. Cubs do everything. Remarkably, Swanson walks. That was also Cardinal. You don't deserve to win a game if you walk.
You don't deserve.
If you walk
to win.
Swanson with nobody out and a man on second to lead off the 10th. I'm sorry, you just don't. And somehow the Cubs only score 1 run. I think it was Bregman or whatever hit a fielder's choice with the bases loaded, and it's like, oh God. And then of course with 2 outs, the Cubs do nothing. I think Seiya Suzuki took strike 3. That's right. For somebody who I thought would benefit a lot from this ABS system, they usually reverse calls against him, and then he takes strike 3 anyway. So I don't feel like that's helped at all.
There's another guy who's streaking in the wrong direction at the moment.
He's been doing all right overall since he's been here, hitting wise. Don't get me wrong, but I thought he would really take advantage of ABS and just be unstoppable at the plate, and it's been sort of the opposite for whatever reason. He's one of the guys who maybe was getting some advantages that he shouldn't have on that inside, or I guess outside corner for him. Anyway, and then of course I could have told you, in fact I think I did tell you, that after we only scored the 1 run, if Palencia doesn't come back out in the 10th, we're going to lose this game. Sure enough, that's exactly.
Were you surprised, Matt, that Palencia didn't come out for the 10th?
No. They're
14 pitches
anywhere near being ready to have him do multiple up downs right now.
He can't even pitch he's pitches like every 3rd or 4th game right now. What's going on?
He is healthy enough to pitch, but they're
not. He almost
not...
blew that Reds game last week because they wouldn't put him in the 9th, right. And they,
they don't want to use him more than they absolutely have to at this moment. And I think that's more about proactivity with what this flare-up was than it is about worrying that it's still damaged. By no means did they rush him back. It was truly, I don't want to say a precautionary, but sort of if it was October, he doesn't go on the injured list. Last month, he would have kept pitching through it. But
so there was a Crosstown Classic Cup at stake here, right? Is there still a cup? BP Amico,
BP Cup? Is it?
I don't know. In any case, I would have liked to see him come in after throwing 14 pitches the inning before, and instead they brought in somebody who's terrible, and they lost. Oh well. By giving up a 2-run home run to a catcher with a 410 OPS, I might add, one of the worst, maybe the worst hitter in all of Major League Baseball.
I think they want Palencia to be that kind of guy who can give you 2 innings, and he wants to do it. It was not going to happen yet. I would be surprised if we see him doing anything like that before late June, early July. They need to see him be healthy and, basically not have any more hiccups with the shoulder or the back or the side for a month before they're going to feel that confidence, just because he had the early ramp up with the WBC and he was dealing with some stuff at the end of last year physically, and he throws 102. So there's
instead they brought Rolison in. They brought Rolison in for the 3rd time in 60 hours instead.
The difference
is he pitched Friday night, Saturday night, and now Sunday afternoon.
with Caleb Thielbar on a rehab assignment, it would be much too mean to say they don't care if Ryan Rollison's left arm falls off his body.
They're trying.
But it's pretty close to true. And they absolutely can't afford, and know they can't afford, to lose Daniel Palencia for a long time. So they're trying desperately to avoid that. I think they would rather risk losing a game here and there than risk losing Palencia if they feel like they're pushing him anywhere close to a red line, given that there's already been a flare-up. There was a flare-up last year, and what he is like physically and what he does.
Besides Rollison's performance on Sunday, Phil Maton also had a rough game. He has now allowed 13 earned runs in 12 1/3 innings this season. His 9.49 ERA is third worst in Major League Baseball among pitchers with at least 10 innings pitched.
Did the Cubs sign him to a 2-year deal? Do you remember?
Yes. 2 years and
because you were bragging about that.
$2.5 million, I think.
So what are we going to do with it? We can't. I mean, he's not a guy you can cut at. I was a little bit surprised they cut. Was it Martin they cut last week?
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised that they, just because it's the Cubs, right? But they're like, no, you don't have it. What do you do with Phil? You just got to let him work through it. Maybe don't put him in a game where you have a lead when Thielbar gets back. I don't know.
I mean, here again,
Brett, certainly, you don't have Brown there, right? To come in those innings.
No, they don't have any other. They don't have any choice, and this is the same situation. It feels a little different, but it's fundamentally the same situation they've been in the last 3 Mays, where there's a lot of upset and uncertainty in the bullpen because of a mixture of injuries and not having amassed enough depth in the first place, and trusting guys whose either stuff is fringy and their command has to be great, or there's something funky about them, and when it gets wrong, the funk comes for them. All that kind of stuff. We've seen it with lots of dudes.
Mostly Astros, former Astros, for whatever it's worth, but here it's not. So,
Maton's a former Astro too.
Is he? Okay, yeah.
He didn't come directly from the Astros.
Right.
Yeah. Basically, his stuff is almost unchanged in terms of sheer quality of stuff. I don't think the knee is fully healthy. I'm not sure if it was fully healthy on opening day or if he had something in camp that just has lingered. One way or another, he's not capable of. He can execute the stuff. The pitch comes out of the hand with the same spin, the same velocity, all of it, but he's not hitting the same locations. And I think the reason is mechanical. Watching, it doesn't look like he's able to finish the same way. So both his cutter and his curveball are missing about 6-8 inches further arm side than he has had success throwing them over the last however many years, 2 years especially. And that's a disaster because those pitches were really effective in the places they are. And when you move them over, they're really, really hittable. And so he excelled over the last couple of years by being one of the best pitchers in the league at inducing weak contact. And he can't induce weak contact because that stuff that was on the edges where most of your contact's going to be weak is now in the middle of the plate where it's just not. He's still missing bats, but when he doesn't miss bats, it's thunder. I mean, it's an exaggerated, a much, much worse version of the Matthew Boyd problem we talked about earlier.
Maybe if he aimed a little bit farther outside, instead of going over the middle, would just go over just barely the inside, kind of like he.
I mean, there are guys who are good at this kind of thing. We've talked about this before with people even like Chris Bryant, where it is a skill to avoid injury. It is also a skill to play through injury. And one of the ways that you show the skill of playing through injury is the adjustments you make to compensate for it without losing track of your game.
Yeah.
There are pitchers who would be able to stride slightly more open or exaggerate the extension through release to get to the same spots, even if it meant a slight change in, the pitch profile, or they had to use their pitches differently, who could adjust to this. I don't know whether Phil Maton's incapable of that mentally or whatever, or if he's just like,
he's just another Mark Pryor.
But he so far has not successfully made the adjustments to account for what's clearly a physical problem at its core.
Yeah. Well, I hope he turns it around soon because they desperately need him to.
Now is the time, as the Cubs are playing the Milwaukee Brewers this week. The Cubs come into this series atop the NL Central, 29-18, with the Brewers in second place, 26-18, a game and a half behind the Cubs. Stupid St. Louis still lurking in the shadows at a game and a half. I don't care for that at all. But the focus on Milwaukee this week, the probable pitching matchups are out. Brandon Sproat and Shota Imanaga, Jacob Mizorowski, Ben Brown, Kyle Harrison, and Edward Cabrera.
I think this is great. This is the best the Cubs could hope for, pitching-wise, almost. I mean, Mizorowski's good, but I'll take my chances with Sprout, Harrison. I mean, all things being equal, right?
I mean, they got Miz, and that's really the only question with the Brewers right now is, do you get Miz or do you miss Miz? Their number 2 starter is probably Kyle Harrison at this moment.
Good God. See, I guess everybody has problems, right? You only focus on yourself. Who knows that your neighbor is doing so poorly too? And with Miz, I think this Cubs lineup, well, we'll see. Like, this Cubs lineup can miss pitches, but they're a little bit more patient than some teams. Maybe they can just get his pitch count up and at least get him out, somewhere before the end of the 6th.
It's a good goal. He is throwing strikes this year, and I don't think it's going to work, but it's a good goal.
We'll see. I can't wait for your next return.
Yeah. That guy is a very serious Cy Young candidate. He's had a couple of starts go a little bit
former All-Star, I know, right?
Yes. This year he's going to pitch in the All-Star game, and it's going to be extremely well deserved as long as he's healthy.
Okay. Which is the other issue with him too.
Sure. I mean, it hasn't been.
I know it is with I know. Well, with everybody, right? Well, he got hurt last year, didn't he? I mean,
Yeah, kind of. He rolled an ankle, and they, at that point, were looking to manage his innings anyway. Yeah. So they put him on the injured list when they absolutely didn't need to. But he is, in the past, before he made his big league debut, there were injury issues, and you'd expect there to be because the dude throws 103 with elite extension. It's crazy. I mean, this is going to be a good series. I think the Cubs certainly have the better of the pitching matchup on Monday. The other two, well, the Brewers definitely have the better of the pitching matchup on Tuesday because they would.
Cabrera and Harrison isn't bad, right? I mean, if you're the Cubs, you got to hope that Cabrera is better than he's been the last couple of starts.
This is a good chance for Cabrera to get back on track, not because the Brewers are an especially good offense to do that against, although they're not lethal right now either. They're a little bit. They were here. This is my 39th appearance. Most people probably remember I live in the Twin Cities. They were here at Target Field over the weekend. So I've gotten a good long look at them, and it's just weird with that team right now. Like some of the same types of things we've been talking about with the Cubs. There's, it is very strange. Jackson Chourio has been back a couple of weeks from the injured list, and he is taking some truly atrocious, unbelievable swings, like he's blind at the plate. And then every, once or twice a game, he barrels one into the gap. So
Sal Frelick and Garrett Mitchell have negative WARs. That's surprising.
Frelick's having a real rough year.
I didn't see that coming. If you take Mitchell, Frelick, and Yelich, and you combine them all, they have 0 WAR.
Yeah. I mean, Yelich has been out for Yelich just got back in the lineup today after missing 4 days.
Of course.
After coming back for just a couple of days from the injured list. So he's dealing with multiple things at once, but he also homered today. So it's go figure. They are a very deep team, as they always are. They can beat you a lot of different ways, as they always can. But the flaws are also pretty evident so far. They don't know how to get any offense out of the left side of their infield right now.
You take Joey Ortiz, right, at shortstop, and Luis, what's his name? Yes, at third base, and you can put that with those the other 3 I just talked about, And those 5 guys have combined for negative 0.2 WAR for the year. It's amazing the Brewers aren't, in last place when you look at it that way. But of course, Terang is good, and Contreras, of course, will be good for reasons or whatever.
I think not unlike the Cubs, if you sort of envision, if you look at this team, try to see the vision of what their front office put together, and imagine it gelling, into the second half, it's an incredibly dangerous team. That just like they can do so many things well. Bryce Terang's an MVP candidate, but also there are long stretches where they're really, or like you used to talk about this as being one of those long lineups where there's no easy out, because even at the bottom of the order, there's that
you got like 4 of them.
MVP guy.
Yeah.
No, there are like 3 easy outs at the bottom of their order right now.
I was going to say 4, but we can debate that.
Yeah. You just hope that it doesn't turn around this particular week. Right?
Exactly. And with Woodruff out, that helps us because he's a Cub killer. And then the closer, former Cub Trevor McGill, right, has come back to earth a little bit.
Yeah. In fact, he's not even
the closer anymore, is he?
Right. They don't really have a closer at the moment.
Yeah. Perfect. They won't need one this week.
They're using McGill, Abner Uribe, and Aaron Ashby as a very flexible, don't get it twisted. There's still a much better bullpen than the Cubs bullpen right now, but there's a little bit of uncertainty just because Uribe blew a save last week too.
Yeah, he hasn't exactly been lighting up the world, I guess, right? Has he?
A lot of echoes of the Cubs with this team. Some things that you expect will work in the long run that just haven't worked yet. Some things that have worked really, really well, but maybe are starting to come back to earth or just haven't been enough to overcome some injuries.
Is Andrew Vaughn still a thing, or are we over that?
I think the jury's out. He has not been back very long from a hamate bone that he broke on opening day. The swing is a lot slower since he came back, but you would expect that with the hamate bone, and it's not necessarily permanent.
It's not good for us because our pitchers throw so gently that even if he is slow, he'll probably be able to smack the ball pretty easily, I guess.
I will say this. Imanaga, you'll probably see Vaughn, but right now, when they're at full strength, which they were on Sunday, today,
Bowers.
Not in the lineup. Jake Bowers has been great. So he is their starting first baseman against righties, and Vaughn is sidelined except in certain matchups, at least until, again, he kind of gets fully back up to speed.
Till they need a pinch hitter for Phil Maitan, and then,
The Brewers are 8-2 in their last 10 games.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, and they lost a game today that they should have won, just like the Cubs lost one they should have won. Oh. So both teams come in very streaky, a little frustrated, but ultimately playing really well. And I think I've said this all along. I'm not changing it. People can worry about the Cardinals as much as they want. This is a 2-team race, and these are the 2 teams, so that's going to make it a fun series.
The Cubs made sure the Reds were put back in their place. That was
I think everyone's clear on what the Reds are now, at least. Yeah.
The Cubs will then host the Houston Astros at home. Pat, you mentioned we'll be in attendance for at least one of those games. And Cubs, Astros, 3-1-20 starts there. Matt, your thoughts on the Astros? I haven't watched many Astros games this season.
What a relief it is going to be to face an unmitigated mess for the first time since, I guess, the Reds were in town.
Since the Reds.
The Astros are just a mess of a baseball team right now, man. It's not that there's no talent, but Correa's out for the year. Altuve is over the hill finally.
Yeah.
The pitching staff is in tatters. I mean, this pitching staff makes the Cubs and the Brewers look deep, healthy, balanced.
So the Cubs face Arrighetti, who's decent, but Teng and Lambert, they make Phil Maitan blush. They're so bad.
It's really ugly. Josh Hader's not back, and Brian Abreu, who I don't know how much you guys remember, the last couple of years he was right-handed Josh Hader, basically. Well, he's not now. They are a mess. You guys, we all get to watch Cam Smith play right field, which is delightful. Like I'm not being snide. It is a genuine delight to watch him race after the ball at absolute full speed, no matter what, what the risk of that is. But every now and then he kicks a ball like 50 feet. He will not get to a sinking line drive, and then it'll skip off to some other corner of the outfield. No other outfielder in baseball plays like this. Is he good? Not really, but it sure is fun. I think the Cubs should easily win that series, hopefully sweep it, and it will be a nice, deep breath of relief for people who've had to watch that series in Atlanta, which was stressful, and you knew that team was really good. That series in Chicago against the White Sox, which I don't think that team's really good, but they're playing well, and the South Side, it's always a weird dynamic. And then the Brewers, that's a vicious test every time you play them. Yeah, this should be a palate cleanser of a series.
Cubs have lost 2 out of 3 series in a row. If you could sweep the Astros, it kind of negates those 2 out of 3 series, and it's like 500. We're all good.
Let's do some predictions. Pat, we'll start with you.
4-2. The Cubs
Are
lose.
they sweeping?
No, the Cubs lose the 2 games to the 2 good pitchers, and they beat the other 4 pitchers. And I'm not including Harrison and you're among the good pitchers. So whatever. Just bear with me on that one.
I think they find a way to beat Spencer Arrighetti, but still only go 4-2 because the Brewers take 2 out of 3. But
I also think the Brewers will take 2 out of 3, and we'll make it a unanimous.
We'll be there to watch Spencer Arrighetti get lit up by Jameson Taillon.
Yeah.
And it's good to get into the divisional play here.
And I get to see Lambert live. It's my first time.
After this homestand, the Cubs will close out May at Pittsburgh and then at St. Louis. So
nice.
Let's close out this podcast the way we do every single week, and that is with our fun This Day in Cubs History lineup. What year are we going to this year, Pat?
We're going into the Wayback Machine to 1998. Matt Trueblood's second year as a Cubs fan. The Cubs played the Cincinnati Reds at Synergy Field in Cincinnati, where the Cubs promptly won the game 10-1. Cubs went 7 games over 500 with that win, so it was very similar to this team. But still, coming off the 97 season, there wasn't necessarily all the preseason hype that you would have thought. No. There wasn't a lot of talk about Sammy Sosa going into that year, even though there maybe should have been. And Kerry Wood had already had his 20 strikeout game. Mm-hmm. So, the Cubs were still finding themselves at this point, but they found themselves this game 10-1. Only other than Sosa, there was only one other Hall of Famer who played in this game. That was Barry Larkin of the Reds. And the Cubs lineup that day consisted of whom? Who would have been in the first inning? Who are the first 4 batters in this lineup?
Lance Johnson, one dog.
Lance Johnson did not play in this game.
Whoa.
You will never guess who played center field in this game. If he wasn't a center fielder, he wasn't even an outfielder.
Oh.
I didn't know he'd ever even played a game in the outfield before.
Huh.
He was a shortstop, a third baseman, and a second baseman.
Oh, no, yeah. I knew Jose Hernandez played center field. You're trying to throw me off the scent there.
All right. Jose Hernandez. That's a good Immaculate Grid answer, by the way, for a guy who played a game in center field, I think.
He played a good chunk in center field. That was Jose Hernandez 1998 prefigured Javier Baez 2016, where they thought he was going to end up playing quite a bit of center at one point, and then it was not the same mechanism. The Cubs re-signed Dexter Fowler, and suddenly it wasn't important that Javi
played
was center.
54 games in outfield, 31 in center that year.
Yeah.
And the rest of his career, I think he played 45 games in the outfield. 50
Yeah.
games. Yeah.
Because honestly, he was a good shortstop. Why would you try and make that work anyway?
Yeah.
Jose Hernandez played center, but he wouldn't have been one of the first 4 batters of the game, right?
No.
So we're talking about Mickey Morandini.
Yep. Second baseman, batting leadoff.
Mickey Morandini.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so we're talking about Sammy.
Yep. He batted third.
Yeah. This is interesting. I like this because it's a little bit of a wrinkle because I remember the Lance Johnson 1, Mickey Morandini, 2.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was the lineup. But who would have batted after Sosa typically?
Well, Mark Grace.
Yes, Mark
Okay.
Grace batting cleanup.
Yeah.
But he and Sosa were interchangeable, really. He was a lefty righty thing, I guess you could look at it. But yeah, and by the way, Grace had 2 hits to add to his most hits of the decade. So the second place hitter, interestingly enough, do you remember who was unable to field the one ball in Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game that went for a hit?
Kevin Ory.
That's correct. He did not start this game.
Okay.
But he came in to replace this guy who did start the game and who was also playing third base, mind you.
So the starting third baseman batted second that day.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
and this guy played 95 games for the Cubs that year, but only 271 plate appearances. He wasn't. I never thought of him as like the third. He played 12 games at third base. He started 9 at third base for the season.
Yeah. Is it Tyler Houston?
Yes, it is. The
Wow, good pull.
catcher Tyler Houston.
Nice job.
Who was then replaced for defensive purposes by Kevin Ory.
Yeah. In the 90s, there was this rash of catchers whose second position was third base, which sort of made sense, but had never really happened before that and has never really happened since.
Right.
Anyway, Tyler Houston.
Now we move to the number 5 hitter. This is the guy the Cubs acquired to protect Sammy Sosa.
Yeah. O. Henry.
Henry. Named a candy bar after him. Yeah. O. Henry. Do you remember they used to throw those out on the field after he hit a home run?
I went to the wild card game in 98. Wild card game 3, the only one the Cubs hosted. And
the Braves, Kerry Wood pitched like 5 shutout innings, right?
Yeah. Henry had like a double or something. He did something good. We were in the bleachers. First of all, we were in that section up beyond the batter's eye, so nothing I threw was getting down to the field anyway.
Right.
But I still thought that I could get something there. Only by the time he actually doubled, I had eaten the O. Henry candy bar. So I just had to wrap it. Like, this isn't going to go anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
So
all right.
The 6th hitter that day was a shortstop, 2-time All-Star, but not with the Cubs.
Yeah. No, he was extremely not an All-Star with the Cubs. That's Jeff Blauser.
That is. Signed a 2-year deal, and then he finished his career after those 2 years with the Cubs, and no one ever signed him afterwards. And then batting 7th, the previously discussed center fielder, who was not a center fielder. He was a shortstop, second base and third baseman, Jose Hernandez. A lot of guys playing out of position for this game, and yet the Cubs did well. The catcher that day,
I'm trying to remember.
I'll give you a clue. It wasn't Tyler Houston.
Yeah.
No.
Good.
How about this? Guess who the pitcher was that day? In a 10-1 game, the Cubs won. Who pitched 6 shutout innings, struck out 8 batters?
6 and 8. Well, I guess I'll start by guessing Kerry Wood.
Yes, right. Of course, it was Kerry Wood.
It's like
his record of 5-2.
6 innings a lot for that team, but he never struck out 8 batters.
I was gonna say it wasn't happening. No.
And Jeremy, who came in for 3 innings of relief to record a save in this game?
Ooh.
Oh, that was Terry Mulholland.
That's right. Terry Mulholland. Terry Mulholland. Talk about rubber arms when you're talking about Hobie Milner. I thought of Terry Mulholland. Okay, so who's the catcher then? If Kerry Wood's the starter.
Well, okay, if you're putting it that way, I'll start by guessing Sandy Martinez. Since
that's right. Of course it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice job. Nice job.
So that's the lineup. Very good. It was Morandini, Houston, Sosa, Grace, Rodriguez, Blauser, Hernandez, Martinez, and then Wood. Not necessarily what you would think in your head might be a playoff team, but stranger things have happened.
Well, you can't see all the Lance Johnson of it all in that in that mix.
Grace hit a home run that game. Jose Hernandez hit a home run that game. Jeff Blauser contributed by getting hit with a pitch.
There you go.
That was
one of the bigger contributions
unavailable.
Yeah. And defensive replacement Kevin Ory committed his 4th error of the season in his 1 inning of work.
They needed Gary Gaetti. That's what they needed.
Yes.
Gary Gaetti.
I mean, when you think of Johnson and Gaetti and the way that the rest of that team kind of materialized, it's like, oh yeah, now that team I can see.
That team
was red hot that year, remember? and Lance Johnson. Now all of a sudden you're like, okay, oh, Henry, Lance Johnson, Sosa. I got Gaetti at third. We got Grace at first. We've got Mickey Morandini, having his best year ever at second. Shortstop was, of course, more Jose Hernandez at that point when they got one dog, so they could slide Jeff Blauser to a more natural position, i.e., sitting on the bench.
Right. No position at all.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, So that was the team. That was the game. That was a fun year. The Cubs won 90 games that year. Can you imagine?
Took 163 to do it, but they did it.
If the Cubs won 90 games this year, I would be happy. And I feel like this team is way better than that team when you look at the two of them. Scott Service being the other catcher on that team, who we didn't mention today.
That's I was going back and forth whether it was Service or Benito Santiago, but he came the next year.
Yeah.
And but Martinez, it was so weird because back then they had 3 catchers, partly because Houston could play elsewhere.
Right.
But just because you also carried like a 10 or 11 man pitching staff. And so they had Terry Mulholland. They had lots of length in the bullpen if they needed it. And, Jim Riggleman also said, Kerry Wood's arm doesn't matter to me. And so he'd pretty much pitch 8 innings every time he was good. So for not being all that long ago, really, it is a really long time ago to any fan who did not live then and doesn't, that's a version of baseball that disappeared.
The Cubs closer that year saved more games than the highest saves pitcher of the Cubs for the last 5 years combined.
Yeah.
That was Rod Beck, 51.
Shooter, Rod Beck.
Yeah. 51 saves. Now, if a Cubs closer gets, 18, we consider that. I mean, go back the last 5 years or so. It's been pretty rough. The Cubs had 3 starters with double-digit wins, led by not Kerry Wood,
Kevin Tapani, 19-9.
19-9 with a
4.85 ERA.
4.85.
Nothing but junk. That.
Yeah. And then of course Mark Clark being the other 50, or won 9 games, and Traxel of course won 15. So that was your starting rotation along with Jeremy Gonzalez. Jeremy Geremi. Jeremy.
An abomination of a way to spell it.
Yeah. Clark won 9 games, but wasn't he also a trade acquisition during the season? So it was like 9 games in 4 months or something. So
the Cubs played around with Mike Morgan, remember?
He was the one who gave up McGuire's 60-second homer.
That 7.15 ERA did not keep him in the rotation. Don Wengert with his 5.07 ERA did not stick in the either.
And I know a couple of ardent Cubs Twitterers and Wrigleyville Nation listeners will not forgive us if, while the 98 Cubs and their pitching staff is the subject we don't mention, they could have friggin' traded for Randy Johnson, man.
I know.
And instead they traded for Felix Heredia.
I was in the bleachers for that.
Insane.
I was in the bleachers for that Saturday game when Houston came to town and Randy Johnson made his first start against the Cubs, and they just annihilated us. I mean, he was just amazing. And I was like, why is he
9-year-old me was staring out at you without knowing it in like the 200 levels behind home plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
much in the same way they could have gotten Justin Verlander back in 2017, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I got for you, Jeremy. A 90-win team.
Always a good time talking about that 98 team. What a great experience that was. That was so great. And hearing that lineup, always. This is the fun time of the season where we look back at a point in time where it's May. So like the team that you think of when you think of the 98 squad is completely different than
makes you feel a bit better about the current roster, doesn't it? When I throw that,
you never know what a team could turn into. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Although it sure helps. Look, and it was easy to learn some wrong lessons about baseball following that season. Like that, it all worked out for that team.
Yeah.
Mostly it worked out because one guy hit 66 home runs.
Sure, if that helps.
And
Even
one guy
after
struck out
relatively
300 batters. Yeah, that's right. And we had a all-time saves record. But other than that, yeah, 3 things really, right?
right.
One quick question for you, Matt, before we go. If the Cubs this year were to acquire Freddie Peralta and start chanting Freddie at playoff games at Wrigley, but in his defense,
positive way.
in a
Yeah,
positive way, do you think that will still freak him out, or will he have PTSD, or will he accept the energy provided to him?
It's just a different intonation, right? You
Yeah.
can't keep doing the Freddie.
No.
That's intimidating. It's got to be Freddie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I assume that he would take to that. I don't.
Okay.
It is so weird. That rumor popped up, and I asked around a little bit about it, and yeah, they are interested. I was told, had Freddie Peralta circled as a potential free agent target for a year and a half, which makes a lot of sense. He pitches the way the Cubs like to pitch. Counsell knows him, and to know him is to love him. I mean, he's a great athlete, one of those guys who makes great adjustments, like we talked about earlier. But it'd just be a little weird because he's been on the other side of that rivalry for a long time, and last year was pretty intense. So,
Matt, always a great time catching up with you, talking Cubs. Please remind all of our listeners where they can find your work on the internet.
Okay. Basically, follow me on Blue Sky at matrueblood.bsky.social. But I have stuff at Baseball Prospectus. There will be a piece on PCA up there this week on his pursuit of maybe the best defensive season ever. We'll see if that pans out, but there's a chance. That's how good he's been. Also, northsidebaseball.com. That's the meat of it for this crowd. And, we're going to be doing a lot because it's going to be a great series and great week. But I also edit and write a bit for brewerfanatic.com. And this week, if you want to look behind enemy lines and find out some details about that team, check us out there too.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up and call it a podcast. You can follow us on all the social media platforms at Wrigleyville Nat. WrigleyvilleNation.com is the website where you can subscribe to the audio feed as well as the video feed that's all available on the YouTube channel. Please throw a like and subscribe over there. It helps us work the algorithm so other Cub fans can find the podcast. It's a great way to support the show for free. If you'd like to support the show with your money, you can do that by going to the store and buying a shirt. If you're watching on the YouTube right now, I'm wearing a Wrigleyville Nation shirt. You can get shirts, Cubs, mugs, hats, all kinds of merchandise over there. Every single penny goes back into the show, so we really appreciate all the support. And with that, we're going to wrap it up and call it a podcast. Pat, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.